when was the first wave of the Windrush generation?
1948.
48. And they have children, their children have children, and now we're in 2012 when Commonwealth citizens are affected by the government's hostile environment legislation that really calls on everyone. It calls on landlords, on the NHS to really make sure, or to somehow, like, what I've understood by it is to check and to probe to make sure that this person is rightfully here. That whole law and the fact that they haven't even, is up to now, that policy is still in place.
No, let's talk about it now, because I need to understand the benefits of this law.
A policy announced in 2012 that tasked the NHS, landlords, banks, employers, and many others with enforcing immigration controls. Yeah, so now you're like nearly like not citizens arrest, but you're putting the onus on them to figure out who the illegal immigrants are. And this is also a nation that is not really clued up and is actually very racist. So let's just say, like, anyway.
So I was speaking to my mum for quite a long time about this. I mean, at one point she was speaking for about 45 minutes and I didn't actually respond, but she kept going. Anyway, she was talking about this country, and she said, listen, what these people wanted to do was to get the low-hanging fruit, get them out of the country, because they don't want to pay their pensions. They don't want to pay their flipping pensions.
And the plot thickens.
Because a lot of these people were on final salary pensions, like they had their fat pensions. And so that's the reason why we're working today, because the government doesn't have the money to pay their pensions. So actually, I'm with Lyndon. They don't want to pay their pensions. They don't want them to be benefiting from the NHS system that, to be honest with you, we basically restored and built. Like it's actually, it makes me angry. That stuff, it makes me very, very angry. I'm going to calm down before I start swearing, because then it's all over.
Everyone here knows somebody that works in the NHS. My grandma works in the NHS.
Yep.
And now you want to go like this because her pension's due. Come on now. This whole thing is all financial. And the way
remember, you can only get your pension if you're in the country. And if you're sent back to your country, then it's all over and done with.
We haven't really figured out its helpfulness, but however helpful or unhelpful, actually we know it's very unhelpful.
It's helpful it's helpful for its real goal. The real goal is very helpful, but it's
similar to the American policy on its hostile environment.
But it leaves the Windrush, it leaves a lot of people in very difficult situations, but especially the Windrush generation, because of the documentation. So when I was reading, obviously there's a variety of documentation that people had, and the Windrush generation were given residency by the Home Office. They were said that they had indefinite leave to remain. They were residents. Like, that's not a problem. They're not going to face deportation, or nearly, like, they're not illegal immigrants.
They're basically exempt from this rule, or this law.
All of that. But when this policy came about, the Windrush generation and their children, who had come on their passports, were not only that, the onus was put on them to prove that they were British citizens. So, for example, or they were legally here. So now some people had gone on to follow up and get their British passport, and other people, of course, like, if there's no pressing need to get your passport, I mean, it's expensive, and it only got more expensive anyway. People had decided, well, actually, I'm a resident here, this is the only country that I've known. Like, they never felt that there was a fear of them being deported or was told that they were illegal immigrants.
I actually think a lot of Caribbean people didn't even consider this law to even impact them or affect them. It's like someone saying to me, oh, so you know what? You know, people who were born like after whatever. And I'll be like, oh, it doesn't matter to me because I'm exempt from that. I'm not even going to pay attention to that law because I feel like I'm exempt. But you know what it teaches you? It teaches you to not trust this government.
Oh.
I'm telling you. Do you know, it's so funny, even growing up, my parents used to say to me, doesn't matter if you've got a British passport, at one point, they're going to tell you to go back home, so you need to remember where home is. And I never used to really, this is growing up all the time. It's like, you can be, they used to look at us and think, you guys think that you're English, don't you? Ask the other English people if they think that you're English, and then you'll realize where you're actually from.
Yeah, but that's difficult. That's difficult for us, because if we ask a Jamaican who we are, they tell us we're British.
They'll tell you English.
And if I ask the Randis who I am, they'll tell me that I'm English too. That's a whole different issue in terms of like them.
That's a different podcast.
That's a completely different podcast. But what we know for sure is that even just by walking on the street, and that's also included, but like white people will never, like there's a level of, you're more likely to be accepted by your own than by the people in this country or the white people in this country. Let's leave that there. So many people lacked the documentation to prove their right to remain, but the Home Office placed a responsibility on them to prove that they had the right to remain. Yeah. Then it comes out that the Home Office demanded that at least one official document. So if they didn't have a passport or some document proving that they have the right to remain, they demanded that they have at least one official document from every year that they had lived here. So that's having some kind of official document. So for example, maybe you've been here from 73, or let's just say 73. Woo.
Battery.
What's battery? Oh. Let's just say that you're here from 73. You would need to have a document, some kind of official document, whether it be a doctor's note, a bill, something, for every single year that you have lived here, to prove after 1973, to prove that you were here legally. I couldn't even give you a document from about 7 years ago.
But let's just deep the trauma that it is that someone's asking you to prove your very existence and your, to prove your right to live here. Like, what the hell? I was born here, or I came here because I was invited to be here from the government, and you kept me exempt. But actually now, sorry, we changed our minds, and actually we've lost the document. Sorry.
And this is all the home that you know. So it's nearly like, so if you came, let's, for example, say if it's my parents, they're like, oh, you know what, I can't find documents from 87, up to now. Oh well, I remember Uganda. I remember I have friends there, I have family there, I know, and there's a level of me knowing what it's like there. There's that feeling like home. I'll just go there. But if you're talking about kids who've been here for all the life that they remember, or even been born here, what does that even mean? Like, to me, I think that's it's such a burden. It's unrealistic. Like, who has that? Even your fellow white British people, do they have documents for every single year they've been here? They don't. It's impossible. It's an impossible task.
But it's impossible for a reason.
That's very true. Illegal immigrants, obviously, after you couldn't do that, you were deemed as an illegal immigrant, and you lost your access to the NHS,
that's so rude.
Healthcare, bank accounts, driving license. Oh, you can't see me?
No, I can see you.
NHS, health, housing, bank account, driving license. You lost your access to all of those, and then from then on it becomes detaining and deporting people that they deemed as illegal immigrants, and also the Home Office, who was supposed to hold documentation of all these people, had destroyed the documentation. So even they had do not want to, but are even not able to provide the documentation of people who they should have documents on, because they called them in the first place. So you should have some kind of register, how am I suddenly turning up? You don't know who I am, and you're the one who called my grandparents, or you called my parents here. That's where I think that's the biggest kick in the teeth and the difference.
I think the Home Office as a whole are incompetent, or they're purposefully incompetent. Like I said before we started the podcast, my mum decided to get a passport in 2002. She applied in 2002 and got no response it got to 2004, she still didn't have a response.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my mum's a bit different to most people. Any injustice, she's ready to fight for. She's ready to fight. It's nice. It's nice to be a kid because there's no one else around you could talk to you because they have to talk to your mum as well. So it can be nice, but it also can be quite long. But in any case, my mum will pick up the phone, cuss somebody, and things will change.
Mm-hmm.
In this situation, mum wrote to the MP of the area, and the MP sorted out the issue, and she got her passport in 1 week. After waiting 2 years, she then gets it in 1 week. Please tell me why this process is so difficult. Why is it so difficult? It takes 2 years. When the MP says get it done now, you get it done in 1 week. Incompetence.
You find with these kind of processes, and I'm not an expert. My cousin is. I'm not an expert on like laws and policy making and how like the House of Commons works. But actually, they make it such that it's almost impossible, but not quite. And if you are the kind of person who perhaps one can afford to have legal assistance, two, if you're aware of the system, or three, if you are determined enough to push your case forward and to explore every single route possible, then you will probably receive a result. So I don't know if your mum like was able to get legal assistance, but she was determined enough that she was like, actually, I'm going to write to the MP. You're not going to hold my passport for 2 years. You're not going to do that to me. Mm-hmm. But do you know how many people are like nervous about going to speak to lawyers if they don't have the funds, or they're scared, or they're skeptical, or they listen to their friends and family who say it's not going to work out well for you? And I think that these laws that come into effect with so much they're so vague, actually it deters you from really pushing ahead. And I think they just want you to accept status quo. They want people to be like, oh, you're gonna get deported, sorry. What yeah, sorry, say your goodbyes, you're going back to Jamaica, you're going back to St. Kitts, you're going back to Barbados, like wherever you came from, you need to go back there, because we've now reneged on our promise that actually you can come and live in this country. And like Linda said, just live. Now you can't do that no more. We're going to take away actually everything from you and send you back on a plane just because we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think my mum was lucky because my mum is one of the kind of people that walk with the confidence that the Holy Ghost is around her and everything she says is going to happen is going to happen. So that's just that. Yeah. But I mean, there's two schools of thought, really. There's either the people that work in the Home Office just ignorant to the special situation of people from the Caribbean, or they know very well what they're dealing with and they're trying to put them out on purpose. It's simple.
They know what they're doing, the same way that the American government know what they're doing with undocumented people and putting children into cages. It is wrong. It's not correct. They're doing it on purpose, and they're using the law to basically get their personal vendettas or their own personal beliefs about immigrants and people who are coming into their country, because it wasn't even their country anyway, especially in America. They're doing it on purpose. I'm sorry. I can't begin to think to myself that, oh, Theresa May, when I watched her speech, I'm so sorry. Not Theresa May, sorry. Who was the lady who the Home Secretary at the time? It was Theresa May.
It was Theresa May.
It was Theresa May.
But
I'm so sorry.
Came out, she was not the Home Secretary anymore. I don't think.
So the people that I'm blaming is Theresa May, Amber Rudd, and David Cameron.
Amber Rudd, you can make all the speeches you want. There are people who died when they got back to their home country. People who refused to have life-saving medication given to them because of your decision. And you're not stupid. It's impossible to believe that you're stupid and that ignorant. It's impossible to believe you're stupid. Your advisors are stupid. All the people that helped to write laws are not stupid. I don't believe it, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they didn't think about it properly. They knew what they were doing, but they didn't think that was going to cause such an uproar.
Amber Karen.
They could do it quietly for a long period of time, and then, sorry, guys, we didn't know.